Appreciate you joining us. Not the time when I wanted to be addressing everybody. A lot of pain here, and I know in the fan base, you don't get a lot of opportunities. I do think we put ourselves in a very good opportunity to win the title this year. Didn't get it done. I think Doc did a really good job talking to the players yesterday, and really everybody in his remarks. He challenged all of us to look at each of us in our role and how we can do better. That starts with me, that starts with Elton in the front office. I think the best front offices are the ones that look back and say, what could we have done better, and learn from that. It's Doc and his staff. I know they're meeting today. And each of the players and what they can do better. And I think, that's how we're going to take that next step next year to a championship. And but we have a lot to build on. We've got an MVP candidate. We've got an all-star. We've got a player who should be an all-star. We've got solid vets. We've got young players pushing those vets. I had the great fortune to work with Red Auerbach in Boston early in my career. And, he always felt strongly that you want to have a structure like we have now, which is, obviously great top players, great veterans, but you also have young players pushing those veterans for time. And I think that was a great dynamic we have this year. And look, for myself in the front office, it's our time right now to go, back to the drawing board and figure out what's next. I think for, again, the coaches as well, and then for the players as well. And I think Doc did a nice job addressing a lot of those things with the players yesterday. So with that, I'll take questions. Excited to talk to you guys. Not really, but I'm let's do it.
All right, thank you, Daryl. We will begin the questions with John Clark.
Hey, Daryl. Obviously, you weren't here before this year, but Brett Brown, Elton Brand, and others pushed Ben Simmons to improve or shoot. And his free throw shooting has gotten worse each year in the playoffs, and he has been reluctant to shoot the ball. How can this organization get him on the right track to actually shoot the ball and improve his free throws in the most intense pressure moments in the playoffs?
Well, I think that's a collective challenge. I think Doc did a good job addressing that yesterday. He spoke with Ben for a long time, and they discussed what the next steps are going to be. And the reality is everyone has to look at themselves and figure out how to improve, and that includes all of us. So, each player has areas they need to work on, and we're going to work on them.
One other question. Would you like, or is part of the plan for Ben to spend more time around here during the off season working on those things? I know he goes to California a lot.
For us, the focus is players and everyone putting in the work needed to make ourselves a championship team next year. I'm not focused personally on where it is. I'll leave that to Doc and Ben, but I think the important thing is that you get the work in and not where it is.
Thank you.
Tom Moore.
Hi, Daryl. I was wondering, are you confident the Sixers core trio, if you add a few role players, can win a championship, or is that something you're still trying to determine?
Well, I would say we have an extremely good trio. I mean, you don't get the one seed without having an extremely strong, top end players. In terms of what's the best next step, they give us just 3 tools, free agency, trade, and draft. And, we're going to figure out how to make the team better. The reality is, only one team is left standing every year. So it's a tough challenge, but we're going to give ourselves a very good chance this year. our chance to win the title peaked pretty high this year. And obviously it's a grave disappointment that we're here, and we've got to take the next step.
And if I could ask one more, you ended up only adding George Hill at the deadline, who didn't have an especially good postseason. I was just wondering where it ranks on your list of offseason priorities to augment the bench for next season.
Well, I think that's one thing. We love the young players that are pushing our veterans. We thought George Hill actually did play very well. I think people are a little bit focused on the offense, but defensively he was very strong. We thought he added quite a bit. Obviously it wasn't enough. So again, in terms of my own self-reflection in the front office, are there opportunities where we could have done more? And I think that the answer to that is yes. And that's on me. But yeah, no, I think, long story short, look, if there's a veteran out there that makes sense to add, we're going to add it. We like what George Hill brings. We like what all our free agents bring, Danny and Furkan. Obviously, they're going to have choices just like we do. And we'll see. But we also really love our young players who had some great moments in the playoffs and how they're pushing our veterans as well.
Keith Pompey.
Daryl, what do you think this team is missing?
That's a good question. Can you be more vague, Keith? I mean,
let's say you said that you guys thought this is a great opportunity to win a championship. You didn't. So the team was missing something. What was this team missing that you can go get in free agency to help you guys out? Yeah,
I mean, you want to go into the playoffs as the favorite to win the title, and we weren't. Look, ultimately you win or lose mostly with your players. It's my job to get the best players. Frankly, we didn't beat people enough. We didn't have quite good enough players. Now, I love how our young players are pushing our top players. I love the reaction that Doc got in the locker room with everyone in the meetings he's had today, with everyone saying how they're going to improve. The reality is, look, we need to be overall a better team with better players, and it's improvement from the players who are here, and we need better players brought in, and we'll make that happen. So, but in terms of specifics, I can't really give you that.
In regards to Ben, is there a commitment to him being on this roster next season?
We're committed to this group. Look, this was a really good group that played at a very high level. I obviously, part of my job is to self-reflect, read what others are reading are writing, because you can learn from that. And a lot of what I'm reading, I frankly don't understand. People saying the Sixers are in a bad situation. I don't choose to come here. Doc doesn't choose to come here if this is a bad situation. I mean, really 25 or 26 teams in this league would love to be in our situation with an MVP caliber top player, an all-star, a near all-star, great young players who are signed for the long term, good veterans. So we've got a good foundation. We just have to do better. I have to do better. Everyone has to do better. That's the bottom line. That's the challenge. And I can tell to everyone in Philadelphia that, there's going to be a ton of effort up and down from myself at the front office, the coaching staff, and the players who are being challenged, as we speak in meetings with Doc Rivers on how they can get better as well.
Thank you.
Mark Narducci.
Hey, Daryl, at 28, have you looked at this draft? Can the Sixers get anybody that could maybe be a rotation player?
Well, again, I feel like we pulled that off this year. Obviously, Maxey wasn't, every day in the rotation last year, but we feel like he has a really good chance to step into that rotation next year. That's super rare for anyone picked in the 20s. but I believe in our scouting staff. I believe in our coaches' ability to develop these players and put them in good roles. And it's a pretty deep draft in that range. So, if we keep the pick, I mean, frankly, I'm someone who likes to move up, move down, optimize the draft. But if we stay with that pick like we did last year, I feel good about the players that would be available. Yes.
All right, Kevin Kincaid.
Hey, Daryl, what can you tell us about the extent of Joel's knee injury, and do you know if he's going to require off-season surgery?
Yeah, I mean, I think we're all super impressed what Joel was able to do. I mean, he's the sort of the heart and soul of the team, and what he did every night for us will be forever be appreciated. In terms of like what's next, I know they're going through a full assessment of him right now, the medical staff, along with Joel and his very good team of advisors, and the next step will be determined from that.
How much of that, if I can follow up, is based on what he wants to do versus recommendation from you guys?
I mean, look, Joel is one of the smartest players I've ever worked with. And he likes to take lots of input from, pretty much every top doctor in the country, and, taking all that input, the best decision will be made at that point.
Kai Carlin.
Hey, Daryl. If we could just real quick go back to Ben. I know Doc said, I think after Game 6, that he would like to have Tyrese on the floor sometimes with Ben. Is it maybe time to kind of realize that, or at least consider that maybe he's not a point guard? You kind of move him to the power forward position, full time?
I think that's frankly a better question for Doc, and actually his coaching staff. They're doing quite a few meetings this week, and I expect they'll have another offsite or continuous meetings after that. I leave to Doc and his staff, and I think you heard Doc. I agree with him how tremendous the staff around him was, to give us in the front office like, hey, here are the things we're seeing, and then it's our job to find the players. Frankly, a lot of Doc wanting to play Maxey, I think, was really more Maxey related, that we were seeing in practice what he was able to do. And I think the best coaches like Doc, they don't sort of pre-script like we have to play X way. And in fact, I thought Doc just did a tremendous job with the roster. And it's a roster that a lot of teams as we play in Houston are playing a certain style. But our best players play a different style, and to take that mix, especially with where the rules are at in terms of like how much perimeter contact is allowed versus paint contact, to take that mix of players and turn it into the number one team in the East. And obviously just, we didn't get as far as we needed to, but I thought the job that Doc and his staff did was tremendous. And long story short, with players like Maxey, like some of it is like, you can't always say we need X and let's go get X. If you do that, it creates challenges in terms of building the team. And so I really appreciate the coaching staff's ability to say, okay, we have these set of players, we're going to come up with the best way to use them. And they did that very well all season.
Thanks, Daryl.
Noah Levick.
Hey, Daryl. Something Doc said to us yesterday is he thought when Tobias left the floor, the team turned small very quickly. And then also what if you want to call it, the Tony Bradley spot is not something you guys ended up filling post deadline. So is depth at those 4 and 5 spots something you saw as a weakness, and is it something you feel needs to be addressed this offseason?
Yeah, and I think that's the kind of feedback that Doc and his coaching staff giving the front office is good. And to be fair, that was, to his point, that was feedback we had all year. Look, it takes 2 to tango. Once you're in the season, you're down to 2 tools. You're down to 1 tool, really, trade. And nothing really presented itself that allowed us to address some of the things that Doc was looking for. Obviously, Tony gave us tremendous minutes. I made the assessment that, that George Hill would help us more. than the Tony Bradley role to say it. And, is that right? I think it was still right. I still feel very good about George Hill, but those are the kinds of things that I think a good organization does: look back, figure out what you can do better, address it, and, attack going forward. And so I think all these questions are fair. And I think, again, I just love how Doc framed it yesterday and challenged all of us to figure out how to get better. And I think that includes the front office.
Amy Fadul.
Hey, Daryl. Tobias Harris said after Game 7 that it was maybe a little bit of fool's gold at times during the regular season, saying it's totally different. Defense is totally different in the regular season versus the postseason, where the adjustments can be made on the fly and it's possession by possession. And that he said that's something that they need to learn. And going into the offseason, I guess my question is, did you think it was fool's gold a little bit for the Sixers' success in the regular season versus some of the teams? And that how can they improve upon some of that mental fortitude when it comes to the playoffs?
I have to apologize. You cut out right at the beginning for me. What was the very start of your question of what was fool's gold? I apologize.
He was just saying the regular season versus the playoffs, because the regular season defense is not as, amped up as it is. And some of the numbers can maybe be a little bit skewed.
Yeah, no. Look, I don't know if fools go. I 100% agree with what he's saying, that, generally in the playoffs, on defense, the teams get to scheme and they're going to start to attack your weaker defenders. And on offense, they're going to take away the easy options, and, you're going to get into less efficient options. So in terms of that, I completely agree with him if that's what he meant. Look, that's just part of building a team. Look, we're building a team to win the championship, to win in the playoffs. So those things have to absolutely be factored in. And the regular season is different from the playoffs. Sometimes people make that difference too big, that just like they'll say defense win championships. No, it actually helps to score too. So I believe that that's true, but it also often gets overstated. Yeah.
Thanks, Daryl.
Derek Bodner.
In the past, there has been some resistance from Ben on working with shooting coaches or trainers that the Sixers wanted, and also in changes to his form. Has there been any buy-in from him on if Doc has a preference of who he works out with that he will, and if there's changes to the mechanics that he will?
Yeah, with respect to the fact I wasn't in the meeting, but my understanding is that, Ben is just like all our players. They're all in on the organization. The relationship Doc has with the players is extremely strong, and his staff as well. And I believe, and we would expect for the players to be willing to do whatever is necessary.
David Murphy.
Hey, Daryl, regardless of what happens with Ben position-wise, your top two scoring options this postseason were a big guy and a four. An agile four, but he's a four. He's not necessarily built to consistently get to the rim against postseason defense. You look at the guy. You had Harden. You look at Dame. You look at Chris Paul. Not necessarily star-wise, but do you need a guy on the perimeter that can with all due respect to Seth, he's a specialist, and you guys are running your offense through him at times. Do you feel like
that wasn't very respectful to Seth?
He's great.
One thing is, can I just talk about Seth for a minute? Like Seth is improving before our eyes, which I think is super exciting. Again, a testament to him and what Doc's been able to do. I'll try and answer your question, David. If I don't, just jump back in. Sorry, I didn't mean to talk over you. I thought.
No, the point is Seth's not going to shoot 80% from the field every day. He's a 3-point guy. He's not necessarily a guy who's going to get to the rim.
I don't know. He's a Curry, so maybe. To answer your question though, look, that was part of why I was saying sorry, I'm getting an echo now. Okay, it's gone. That was part of the reason I was very excited about the job that Doc and his staff did, because I do think that, Tobias and Joel are two primary scorers. They're both extremely good players. I mean, pretty much every team in the league would love to have both of them. And that, yeah, the league is challenging right now for bigs. I do expect the league to address this. How quickly they will, we don't know, but I know there's quite a bit of discussion, even in Chicago right now at the pre-draft camp, about how the game has completely tilted towards perimeter players, and what is allowed contact wise, what is called as a foul on the perimeter versus in the paint. Look, I'm not looking for the league office to make changes to help us. So to answer your question, I do think the league has made having your top players be big guys a challenge. I think our coaching staff did a really good job optimizing within that. Obviously we'd love to have all stars at every position, right? I mean, we have to see what's out there. We can't overreact to anything that just happened, but you can't underreact. I know that sounds like GM speak, because it is, but it's also true. We have to make the decisions that are best, that are available over this offseason with free agency, trade, and draft. And if we go in with we have to do X, I know that doesn't work. I've been to the league. You can't go in and say, well, we need exactly this. If you do that, you'll fail, because you need a whole set of options and then pick the one that optimizes your championship odds. And I thought we did a good job, not great job, at doing that last year, and we need to do a great job this offseason.
But I mean, is it really saying that you need X to say that you need a guy that can, handle the ball and break down the defense and create a little bit in a half-court offense? I mean, that's the whole reason why you guys went to Maxey.
Yeah, I guess I'm challenging the notion that we don't have that. Yeah, I'm challenging that notion. Now,
Okay.
maybe we obviously could do better. And some of those options are in the form of younger players that sometimes everyone's nervous to count on. But we really believe in the players we have. We need to do better, but we believe in a lot of the players we have, and pretty much all the young players that are pushing our veterans.
Thanks.
Chris Franklin.
Hey, Daryl, it was mentioned yesterday about the culture of the team. I wanted to get your assessment of the culture, and also how do you balance that when it comes to personnel? How much do you factor in culture, and will that take effect in this upcoming off season?
Yeah, I mean, not to praise Doc too much, because I feel like I am, but I think it's deserved. He's come in, we had a really good team environment, everyone playing together, everyone pulling for the team. I think Doc did a tremendous job in my role. Culture, when you have the number one seed in the East, when you have a championship contending team, I find it to be one of the most important factors. And so it's a huge factor in our decision making. I think when I sort of dial that down is, and Philly fans have gone through it during a rebuilding phase, I think you often have to focus on it less, because you might need to take risks on some younger players that other teams don't want to take risks on. But we're not in that situation. We're in the situation where we need to make sure that the players we bring culturally fit with Joel, Ben, Tobias, the group that Doc's put together. That's a very important factor.
Thank you.
Howard Eskin.
Daryl, I want to go back kind of towards the beginning when Keith talked about the future of Ben Simmons with this team. And I think it was a clear indication, asking, will he be here? So I'm asking the question, can you tell us that Ben Simmons will be a 76er next season?
I love your questions, Howard. I would say
I love them too, Daryl.
We have a very strong group we believe in. There's none of us can predict the future of what's going to happen in any place. we love what Ben brings. We love what Joel brings. We love what Tobias brings. In terms of what's next, we're going to do what's best for the 76ers to give us the best chance to win the championship with every single player on the roster.
So what you're saying is, if the possibility is there to improve the team, and that means moving Ben Simmons, that you would do it.
I'm not addressing Ben Simmons, but any move that will help our team win the championship or improve our odds, we will look at and do if it makes sense to do that.
So the only thing I'm trying to ask is, will you look at the value of Ben Simmons as well as any other player on this basketball team to improve the 76ers?
So you just defined the job of a general manager, which is to assess everything, assess every player on the roster, figure out what is best to do with them to help us win the championship. So yes, I'm going to operate as the general manager of the 76ers. And I appreciate you defining my job description.
Okay. I appreciate your responses, even though you may think they're difficult.
No, it's okay. Hey, you're a big part of this market, Howard.
All right.
Love you.
I love you too.
Let's go to Chris Kraus.
Hey, Daryl. I just want to ask a macro question. When you believe in trust, do you believe it's a thing that's given or is it earned? And how does that differ at different levels of an NBA organization?
So interesting question. So trust for sure develops over time. I mean, I think the best way to think about it is like a bank account that you make deposits in. And unfortunately, often trust is easier to lose than gain. And I think that's something Doc does a really good job of, is getting each player to trust their teammates, trust the what work it takes to get better, trust the schemes and what he's asking them to do. And I think we did a good job growing that over time. And obviously with good regular season success and next season, we need to translate that into playoff success. And I do think we have a really interesting game basketball in that it's a selfish game that's masquerading as a team sport. And the best way it's played is as a team sport. Again, I feel like I've learned a lot from Doc. I've learned a lot from all the coaches I've worked with, but this past year has been really positive for really everyone to be with a championship caliber coach and what he brings to the table in terms of how he demands excellence from everyone.
Thanks, Daryl.
Jackson Frank.
Hey, Daryl. You talk about kind of internal improvements, but also bringing other guys potentially. I'm curious, maybe like, what are some of the qualities or skills that you might look for from internal improvement for guys, or in the avenues to improvement external that you've talked about?
Yeah, so we don't have a lot of buttons to push. When you have three, top level max players, that's actually the ideal situation you want as an NBA team, but it also starts to limit your options with sign and trades and how much mid-level you have and how much cap room you have to sign. So it starts to limit all those things. So long answer to your question is internal improvement is probably the bigger lever. And the nice thing is, because we have young players, because we have players who, we think have areas that you can obviously improve. It's pretty rare, frankly, to have top players who are already performing at a very high level in this league, who also have things that you can point to and say like, hey, if we can improve that, the team can get a lot better. That's pretty rare. And it's actually an opportunity, not a negative when you're looking at how do we take the next step. All that said, even though they've limited the tools we have in terms of free agency and trade and draft, obviously, my job is to explore all those and we will, but I would say more internal improvement than external.
And just as a follow, are there certain skills or qualities from that internal improvement you'd like to maybe be prioritized, ideally?
Frankly, I leave that to Doc, and he's meeting with the players and challenging them. And I think I wish basketball was rocket science sometimes because it would allow us to create more of an edge. But I think it's pretty straightforward what certain players need to improve.
Brian Toporek.
Hey, Daryl, two quick questions. One, in terms of George Hill, I know only I think 1.3 million of his contract is guaranteed for next year. Do you anticipate, whether he's on the team or not, do you anticipate picking up the rest of that?
Well, again, none of those determinations have been made, but I will say that we really like what George brought. He's just the kind of guy you want on a team trying to win the championship. Obviously, he's gone very deep in the playoffs many times. So we really like what he brings, but in terms of like any decisions on contracts, none of those decisions have been made yet. And we're going to be sitting down with, every player and ownership and Doc and make the right choice for the team.
And then just a bigger picture question. What lessons can you learn not only from this Hawks series, but the playoffs in general, the teams that are left? Do you see any similarities among the teams that made it to the conference finals that, give you something that you want to emulate moving forward?
I love that question because it is something we really do study, which is we generally benchmark that we want to make sure we're, a conference final team, obviously, or better. But if you just try to compare yourself to championship teams, actually the information you glean can get really skewed. It's just like, it's the Bulls 6 times, oh, we should have Michael Jordan. Great. We learned a lot. But so, yeah, if you broaden it to look at the conference final teams, I do think you can look at patterns. And again, I think it's something you can over and underreact to, but to your point, that is, we haven't done all those assessments, but I really appreciate your question because I do think it's an important type of benchmarking that we do. Now, if you can identify like, hey, we need that's the thing that the league is rewarding right now. But the path from here to there may not be possible. So it's a dynamic thing. Look, if this was easy, like more teams would win the title. I think that's why the NBA isn't trying to add a midseason tournament. So like, there's more stuff to win because, frankly, only one team winning their last game is, your odds suck. So, but that's the challenge.
All right, we have time for 2 more. We'll start with Austin Krell.
Hey, Daryl. Not just in this series, but in general, there were times when it was pretty difficult for your team to score. And I'm curious, what needs to be done to alleviate that issue? And then number 2, does that take the form of multiple moves or one move?
I think multiple versus one is a little hard to address because I don't know what's out there. But in terms of like, yes, we need to be a better offensive team. I think there's, and I know Doc believes this, there's internal improvement that can help there. And then I think there's obviously potentially some external improvement as well. But, like just take, the game 7, at home, which is just incredibly, I'm still like stunned sitting here that we didn't win the game 7 at home. So, but one of the big reasons was Doc did a really good job getting our guys to push in transition. And actually we even got in transition in game 7, but somehow only made 40% of our shots off their misses. And it was just that and Joel have been the lifebloods of the offense. Half court is Joel, in transition it's Ben, and it's getting out. And frankly, Ben and others made some incredible passes in transition, but we didn't knock the shots down in transition. I mean, to a level that I'd have to look, but I think it might have been our worst performance. I mean, Tobias has been unbelievable in transition, was getting the same shots that he's been getting all year, and they were rimming out. I think we're 2 days after, you can tell it's a little raw still. I mean, like I think you replay that game 7 a bunch of times and, we execute better and we win. But look, the reality is reality. We didn't do it. And And frankly, if we're squeaking by the second round, that just tells me we're unfortunately not good enough probably to win the title. So we need to get better. But that series is still incredibly painful.
Thank you.
All right, time for one more question, and we'll go to Dan Gelston.
Hi, Daryl. Ben said a couple of times during the playoffs his free throw struggles were more mental than with his form. How do the Sixers help him or any player deal with mental issues during the season? And how can they help him in the offseason when he's not necessarily around the gym as much?
Yeah, for all our players, we have tons of resources. I think that's one thing I've been, besides Josh Harris and giving us every resource to help, in terms of like acquire the players on the court. The resources we have available to players is really unparalleled in my career. That's available for the players. Now, can we do better? Yes. I mean, everything needs to be assessed, and each player is going to have a different plan and a different approach. But the resources for sure are there, and will continue to be there.
And a quick follow. I mean, do you want him to play in the Olympics? Have you asked him not to play in the Olympics?
So with the Olympics, I've always personally made that. I didn't have a conversation. I've always personally made that a player decision. I think I don't know what his decision will be. I think he may have talked about it with Doc. I'm focused on the 76ers, not really the Olympics. And if he plays, I'll be very excited for him, unless he's playing the United States in the finals. If he doesn't play, I think he'll be working on his game.
All right, Daryl, thank you.
Could that take away from working on his game?
No, I think it could. I think it could. Frankly, it could enhance it, because there's skill work, but then playing in games is helpful. So, again, I'm good with whatever decision he makes, like I am with every player. But I think him playing could be positive as well. So.